Why your brain loves negative thoughts. Have you ever noticed something strange about your mind? You can have a wonderful day. 10 people can say something nice about you. You can finish your work, enjoy a good meal, and spend time with people you love. But then, one person says something negative about you, and suddenly that one comment becomes the most important thing in your mind. You think about it again and again. Why did they say that? Did I do something wrong? What if they are right? Hours later, you are still thinking about it. So why does this happen? Why does your brain remember negative experiences more strongly than positive ones? The answer begins with something called the negativity bias. The human brain naturally gives more attention to negative information than positive information. But this is not because your brain wants to make you unhappy. It is because your brain was designed to keep you alive. Thousands of years ago, human life was very different. Our ancestors lived in a world filled with real dangers. Wild animals, poisonous plants, violent weather, and attacks from other groups could all become serious threats. Imagine two people living in that world. One person sees movement in the bushes and thinks it is probably nothing. The other person immediately thinks there might be a dangerous animal there. The second person is more careful, and because of that, they may have a better chance of surviving. Over thousands of years, the human brain became extremely good at noticing possible danger. The problem is that our world has changed much faster than our brain. Today, most of us are not running away from wild animals, but the brain still uses the same ancient warning system. Now, instead of looking for a tiger, your brain looks for different kinds of threats. A negative comment, a mistake at work, an embarrassing memory, a message that someone did not reply to, a strange look from another person, or fear about something that might happen in the future. Your brain sees these things and says, "Pay attention, this could be important." That is why negative thoughts can feel so powerful. Your brain believes it is protecting you. There is another reason negative thoughts stay in our minds. Positive experiences usually do not require immediate action. If someone says, "You did a great job," your brain feels good, but there is no emergency. However, if someone says, "You made a serious mistake," your brain immediately becomes alert. What happened? How can I fix it? What will happen next? Could this happen again? Your brain starts searching for answers, and sometimes it does not know when to stop. This is how overthinking begins. You believe you are solving a problem, but often you are simply repeating the same thoughts. You replay conversations. You imagine different situations. You think about what you should have said. You worry about what another person might be thinking. The brain keeps searching for certainty. But life cannot always give us certainty. And so the thinking continues. Negative thoughts also become stronger through repetition. Think of your brain like a forest. Every thought is like walking on a path. The first time you walk through the forest, the path is difficult to see. But if you walk on the same path every day, it becomes clearer and easier to follow. Your thoughts work in a similar way. If you repeatedly think, "I am not good enough," your brain becomes familiar with that thought. If you constantly expect something to go wrong, your brain becomes better at finding evidence that supports that belief. Soon, negative thinking can become automatic. Something small happens, and your mind immediately goes to the worst possible explanation. But here is the important part. A thought is not always a fact. Just because your brain produces a thought does not mean you have to believe it. Your brain can say you are going to fail, but that is a prediction, not a fact. Your brain can say everyone is judging you, but you cannot actually know what everyone is thinking. Your brain can say things will never get better, but your brain cannot see the future. Learning to understand this difference is one of the first steps toward changing your relationship with negative thoughts. The goal is not to completely stop negative thinking. That would be impossible. Negative thoughts are a natural part of being human. The goal is to notice them without automatically following them. Instead of saying, "This terrible thing will happen," you can say, "I am having a thought that something terrible might happen." That small change creates distance between you and your thoughts. You begin to understand something powerful. You are not every thought that appears in your mind. You are the person who can observe those thoughts. And once you can observe them, you can decide which thoughts deserve your attention. In the next part, we will explore why negative thoughts become addictive, how social media can make them stronger, and what you can do to train your brain to think in a healthier way. Why your brain loves negative thoughts. Part 2. So now we understand that the brain has a natural negativity bias, but there is another interesting question. Why do we sometimes return to negative thoughts even when we know they are making us feel worse? One reason is that negative thinking can create the illusion of control. When something uncertain happens, the brain does not like not knowing. Imagine you send an important message and the other person does not reply. After some time, your mind begins creating stories. Maybe they are angry with me. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe they do not respect me. Maybe something bad happened. Notice what the brain is doing. It is trying to fill the empty space of uncertainty. The truth might simply be that the person is busy. But uncertainty feels uncomfortable, so the brain creates explanations. And because of our negativity bias, those explanations are often negative. This can create a cycle. A negative thought appears. You give it attention. The thought creates anxiety. The anxiety makes the thought feel more important. So you think about it even more. This cycle can continue for hours, sometimes even for days. Modern technology can also feed this pattern. Think about social media and news. Negative, shocking, and angry content often gets our attention quickly. Why? Because our brains are naturally sensitive to possible danger and conflict. A peaceful story may feel nice, but a shocking headline immediately makes the brain ask, "What happened?" This is one reason people can spend hours scrolling through negative news. The brain keeps searching for information. It feels like you need to know more. But the more negative information you consume, the more dangerous the world can begin to feel. So what can you do? First, learn to name the thought. When a negative thought appears, do not immediately fight it. Simply notice it. You can say to yourself, "This is worry," or "This is my brain imagining the worst possible situation." Naming the thought helps you create distance from it. Second, ask a simple question. Is this a fact or is this a story my brain is creating? For example, imagine you make a mistake at work. Your brain says, "I always fail at everything." Stop for a moment. Is that actually true? Have you failed at everything in your life? Probably not. You made one mistake, but your brain turned one event into a complete story about who you are. Instead of saying, "I always fail," try something more accurate. "I made a mistake, and I can learn from it." This is not fake positivity. You are not pretending that everything is perfect. You are simply choosing a more balanced way of looking at reality. Third, pay attention to what you feed your mind. If the first thing you do every morning is read negative news and angry social media posts, your brain begins the day in a state of alert. You do not have to ignore what is happening in the world. But you can choose when and how much information you consume. Your attention is valuable. Protect it. Fourth, practice noticing good things. Because of negativity bias, positive experiences often pass through our minds quickly. So when something good happens, give it a little more attention. Maybe you had a good conversation. Maybe you finished something difficult. Maybe someone helped you. Maybe you simply enjoyed a quiet moment. Stop for a few seconds and notice it. This helps teach your brain that positive experiences also deserve attention. Finally, remember that your brain is always learning. The patterns you repeat become stronger. If you repeatedly follow every negative thought, your brain becomes better at negative thinking. But if you learn to question your thoughts, focus your attention carefully, and respond to yourself with patience, new patterns can also become stronger. You do not need to control every thought. You do not need to force yourself to be positive all the time. You simply need to understand what your brain is doing. The next time a negative thought appears, remember this. Your brain may be trying to protect you, but protection is not always prediction. Fear is not always reality, and a thought is not always the truth. You can listen to your thoughts without obeying every one of them. You can notice fear without allowing it to control every decision. And you can train your attention to see more than just what might go wrong. Your brain may naturally notice the negative. Remember, fear is not always reality, and negative thoughts are not always true. You can choose which thoughts to believe and where to focus your attention.